Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another podcast of the Four Guys Roundtable Show. We have me, Theo, AG Nitro, Darth Pat, and Coach Jeremy. How is everybody doing this evening?
Doing good. Little tired. But other
Wonderful.
than that, doing good.
Wonderful. Okay, everyone else. No, I don't want to hear you. You had 5 seconds to answer. You blew it.
I'm here.
I just wanted to point out that we're all in different states tonight.
This is true. This is the first time we've ever done one from all four of us being in different states.
Yes.
That is true. What state are you in right now, Pat?
Oh, I am living the dream in the metropolis of Carmel, Indiana.
Ooh, caramel. Not a big fan of caramel, but that's okay.
Well,
Did you get some caramel candies?
This is just CARMEL. This is Indianapolis area for what that's worth. So
I actually know where that is.
Well, that's good.
Pat, did you just go through southern Ohio and kind of go up, or what did you do?
Yeah, pretty much. Like we went through, well, not really. Well, yeah, kind of through Columbus. And then,
oh, you went through shit bus. Lucky you.
Yeah, luckily that didn't take too long.
What?
It was ugly.
Huh? What, Pat?
I did find it ugly, like the building, like we're going through like the tall buildings that like the interstate goes through and everything. I do kind of remember saying to myself, yeah, those are not very attractive looking buildings, you know.
Dude, unfortunately for you, you probably weren't close enough to the shit shoe to have to see it. So
yeah,
the shit shoe.
My mother and I like took turns driving, and she was driving when we were going through Columbus. And I think I even said, "Where's the horseshoe?" and she's like, "Oh, that's like a few miles up the road or something like that." I went, "Aw, I was gonna curse it in Matt's name."
Take a dump in it.
Ohio State's football stadium, Jeremy. That's where.
Well, I've never heard referred to as the shit shoe, so that's a new one, AJ.
Clearly, you've never heard me call Columbus shit bus before either.
That is true. I've never heard you say shit bus either. I mean, I know you have a great disdain for Ohio State, as do I, being a Penn State college football fan, but for different reasons.
Shit bus is a regular term for me. I'm surprised you haven't heard that before.
Right, but like the shit shoe, it's like, how long have you known him? I've heard him say that like plenty of times. I can't believe that you.
I usually don't talk college football with AJ
true.
because I don't pay attention to college football except for Penn State football, and they only play Ohio State once a year. Sometimes they even skip a year, depending on what their schedule's like. So,
the way it's set up now, unless they were to like realign the divisions again, Penn State will play Ohio State every year. So.
I mean, they may not play each other this year because they may not play any games this year. So,
this is very, very true.
Yeah. We're finding out that fall sports are starting to get canceled around here for like Little League, so to say. Your youth sports, those are starting to get canceled.
Well, I mean, University of Connecticut called off football for this year, and today the Mid-American Conference called off all fall sports. They said something about they hope to be able to play in the spring. I'm like, that's probably going to be a little tough too, especially football. But they as a conference, postponed for lack of saying canceled, postponed all sports. So not just football, like all the other sports that get played in the fall. So that's a pretty drastic step, but unfortunately, probably necessary.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we're going to see really. I really think that sports as a whole, to see it the way that it used to be, is not going to happen until there's a vaccine for COVID. And then
it was until that happened. So
as much as they're trying with having the NHL play in Canada, which I think seems to be going pretty well so far.
Yes, they have the NHL and the WNBA are like the only two professional sports right now. Major League Soccer had a little hiccup in the beginning, but those two are pretty much coming up with like 0 reports. So
nice.
the men and women in those sports actually want to play their sports and not venture off to a strip joint to get wings and food, quote unquote, or players go to a fucking casino
Those are the best wings in the world.
Yeah. Let's do stupid shit and then, get test positive and fuck everything up. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I knew that whole bullshit with the bubble down in Florida was not gonna. Somebody was gonna do something stupid, or multiple people were gonna do something stupid, and we were gonna have an outbreak, maybe a small outbreak, but hopefully contained. But I knew that shit was coming without a shadow of a doubt. And Major League Baseball was bound to have it just because they're not staying in one specific area. They're having teams travel. They're trying to keep teams only around their teams in specific hotels and stuff like that. But you still have them traveling throughout the United States, just specific areas. So you're bound to have something happen there. So it is what it is. But
nice use of shadow of a doubt. Nice rock line there, Jeremy. You said beyond a shadow of a doubt. The Rock used to say that all the time. That was very, very Rock-like, Jeremy.
That's a common phrase in my vocabulary. I like that phrase. Beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Right. But I feel like it's after you played The Rock, it became more prevalent in your vocabulary.
Maybe.
Didn't also say that in the 316 promo? Didn't he say that? Didn't he say that I proved beyond a shadow of a doubt you ain't got what it takes anymore, and we just lost Joe?
Yes, we did.
We did. We're evidently Theo is experiencing some technical difficulties, but he will be back.
He was frozen, so.
I was afraid to ask if he was frozen on your guys' screen too, because the last time I asked about that, whoever I thought was frozen, you guys said was not.
He was definitely frozen.
I'm also using the hotel Wi-Fi here, so I'm not sure how fast or reliable it is. So
he said all of us froze for him.
Oh,
that sounds like a him problem then.
You can.
Yeah, it's bound to happen. I mean, we're using, we're all in different places. We all got different Wi-Fi. You just never know. But these are the things we deal with, and we keep moving, we keep going forward. So does anybody have a story they want to share with the group?
He's down there in North Carolina.
So any stories from anybody? I know Darth Pat, you're attending a wedding. That's why you're in Indianapolis. Any stories from your adventures besides what you've already shared about your travels?
This is the first time I've been in the state of Indiana since I left Notre Dame 19 years ago.
Ooh, exciting.
Was it a failure?
Wow.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That's what ended up happening. Of course, I'm nowhere near South Bend right now, but this is the furthest west I've been ever since.
Are you close to Bend over?
Clearly you're not close enough to South Bend because you would smell the shit.
It's funny you say that. Like the first rest stop in Pennsylvania we stopped at yesterday. I don't remember exactly where it was. Water in the air there yesterday. I could really only describe it as shit, but I don't know why.
You might have been near Schittsburg. Who knows?
Was it? Did anybody come out and say, "Woo! Do not go in there"?
Don't go in there. Actually, it would have been like, go in there to save yourself, or in your car. But the outside was rancid. I haven't any wedding-related stories now. The ceremony's not till tomorrow, so maybe for next week I'll have some funny stories to tell. But I'm also still, I'll be perfectly frank. I'm still not thrilled with the idea of being here at a wedding in the middle of a fucking pandemic. So there's only going to be about 75, 80 people there, but of course, and part of it's outdoors and stuff. But it's like, is this a good idea?
This is what you should do: take a mask, wear a mask, and carry around a tape measure that has 6 feet, perfectly measured out, and just don't come any closer than this. Don't come any closer than this.
I do have a mask, of course. That tape measure would have been a great idea. Son of a bitch.
And you should put the tape measure by your junk and hold it like that as you're walking back and forth. 6 feet, people. 6 feet. Thank you.
I'm sure my cousin who's 10 years younger than me that's getting married would appreciate me doing that. Yeah. Okay, I guess that's maybe a funny aspect of this. I have several cousins who are younger than me. My cousin is getting married tomorrow. It will be now the fourth cousin, foreshadowing. The fourth cousin of mine who is younger than me to get married. I say this, of course, as the only member of this round table who is unmarried. So
that's all right. You're single and ready to mingle. Play a little.
I don't know about the second part of that, but the first part for sure.
I'll thank you to stay out of my personal life, you sick son of a bitch.
Yeah, I'm the only one that gets to be in his personal life like that. So there. I'm just kidding. Yeah. I'm really not.
What are we drinking tonight, Jeremy?
Miller Lite. It's the last one we had, and after the long-ass day that I had, I needed a beer. It was time for a beer.
What are you drinking, Joseph?
Same stuff last time, the cider beer. Trying different stuff out.
You've just killed a small animal. It's Miller time.
Well, that's a possibility, but not today.
Why are you trying to be a judge about this? Huh? Mm-hmm. What are you, the judge and jury on what he drinks?
No, I was that comes from my I think it was a
he didn't catch on to it.
He missed it.
No, but like that line, like you
your cup, Pat.
Don't worry, Pat. I didn't get it either, so it's okay.
Who was the person on your cup?
That line, "You killed a small animal. It's Miller time," comes from an old Robin Williams routine. So
yes, I do remember that.
But I think he was referring to your cup.
Yes. He said judge and jury.
I'm mad at him right now. So yeah.
Why are you mad at him?
Because they split the series with the Phillies.
Right.
Yeah, he didn't come through in a couple spots this week that I remember. So, he literally has to hit a home run every time he's up. Otherwise, he's just no good.
It's one of those batters right now. Not an on-base guy. He's a home run man.
Well, he did hit a home run today in the first game. Yeah.
Add up to those FanDuel points. There we go. All right.
But it's getting to the point with Judge. It's like when you see him come up to the plate and you see him strike out, it's just like, God damn it, You just want him to make contact, because
A-Rod. It's A-Rod all over again.
It really is in a lot of ways. But with how hard Judge hits the ball and everything, it's like, if he's making contact, there's a very good chance the ball's going to go a long way. So.
Do you have a basketball FanDuel today, Joe? I saw Booker did good again.
Si, senor. I do. And he is on the team once again. He's going to keep being on my team.
They're like 5 or 6-0 since the restart.
Yep. I will keep taking Booker.
And the great, wonderful Ben Simmons is out with a dislocated not a full dislocation, a half dislocated knee.
He's having surgery to have body parts removed, is like what one of the articles said. I was like, he's having what removed? Body parts? Like, how the fuck would you wear that shit?
I am, as a Sixers fan, I am over Joel Embiid. I am over Ben Simmons. I'm tired of hearing about those two because guess what? Those two together are not going to win fucking shit. They'll be good. They'll contend for a good spot in the playoffs every year because that's about how good they are. But after that, that's all they're contending for. They're not going to contend for a championship. And I would love to be proved wrong. I really would, but I don't see it happening.
I tend to agree. I tend to agree with you on that one, Jeremy.
One of them needs to go.
So it sucks because being a Sixers fan, I want them to do good, but I hear too many things and you read too many things and you see highlights from games and stuff like that. And it's like they're only good against the bad teams. Like when they have to play a good team, like they look mediocre half the time. It's just sad because
I don't like either. I don't like either of those guys, but I think Embiid has a bigger upside.
Well, he does, and he would have a great upside if he could stay healthy. He's always freaking injured. Always. He hasn't had a full healthy season yet. This bullshit about game load management is ridiculous. Like, I'm sorry. I know we're in a different age, and they want players to play longer so they can have longer contracts and make more money. You know, and I think that's truly an agent thing. I think that has nothing to do with the player wanting to play forever. I think that's agents wanting to make a buttload of fucking money off these big money players. Just my personal opinion. But you never back in the 80s, the 90s, when we were really into basketball. Yeah, even in the early 2000s.
There was no such thing as load management.
Load management. What the fuck? You would have told Michael Jordan, hey, you're on load management. You're going to sit out every fifth game. He would have been like, yeah, fuck you. I'm playing because we want to win.
He got mad because they didn't let him play in that game when he was coming back from his injury that they needed to win to get in the playoffs. He was pissed that they wouldn't let him play in that game.
Yeah, you weren't going to tell Dave Robinson and any of those guys, oh, yeah, every 5 games, we'll give you a break. They'd be like, yeah, no, we're going to play.
Yeah, no, because the game has changed a lot, and I understand that. I completely understand that. I'm not saying that it hasn't. I'm not saying it needs to stay the same. Things need to evolve. But when it comes down to it, you're playing a sport, and yes, you're going to have injuries. Yes, you're going to get worn out. But you're still playing the same 82 games that everybody else that's ever played the game of basketball since whenever they changed to an 82-game schedule has played. Like, It's not any less physical or any more physical now or any more demanding on their body. The game is faster, but that's all that's changed because the game got faster instead of being super physical in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. It's now a fast game where there's barely any, I just don't want to say any physicality because there is some physicality, but it's less than it ever was in the game. So where are all these damn injuries coming from if these guys aren't beating the shit out of each other going to the paint and stuff like that?
Because they're pussies, that's why.
So it's just, it's ridiculous to me. And God, I mean, just playing pickup ball, the last thing I want to do is sit out. Like, that doesn't even mean anything, and I don't want to sit out a game. I'd rather fall over on the court from exhaustion than freaking sit on the sidelines and pick my nose, you know?
I saw Joe, our boy, sat out because his vagina hurt the other day, so.
I just shake my head at any of that stuff anymore. I just can't. Yeah.
And who was that?
AJ was being very overdramatic with that statement, but yes.
LeBum.
Oh, LeBum. LeBron.
Okay. Man, I thought we agreed we weren't going to stoop so low.
No, you agreed to that.
Because I have respect for the fair sex, goddammit.
AJ does too, but he likes to, it's all right to say that LeBron.
Uh-oh.
See, my internet cut off on me, and you guys all froze, and I was like, what?
Jeremy just froze briefly.
We didn't hear
we didn't hear what you said at the end, Jeremy.
Oh, well, then I'll repeat it for you guys, just in case the listening audience didn't hear that. It's all right to refer to LeBron as having a female genitalia because he does definitely whine more than most men I've ever met. So... That's not to say that women whine all the time.
Nicely put, Jeremy.
But that is a stereotypical woman trait if you're going by stereotypes.
Captain, your statement is without logic.
I like it.
You say.
Just real quick about your opinion about Simmons and Embiid. I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in there.
Okay, go ahead.
I have no strong opinions either way.
Oh, well, that's a great...
Thanks for that, Pat. I'm glad we waited for that.
Spot on, Patrick.
Now I can sleep tonight.
But the whole thing is, you didn't know you were waiting for it. Now that you know you were waiting for it, let's be honest. Was the anticipation worth it?
No.
No, because I didn't come to full climax there.
He was having problems with load management.
Yeah, I had to manage my load.
Seen somebody about that problem, John? Because
Oh my lord.
I really am not the person to help you with that.
Wow, we're having way too much fun, and we haven't even started the podcast essentially yet.
We haven't even talked about our main topic for this
Yes.
evening. No, we haven't. We're talking about load management. I mean, why don't we just talk about BlueChew.com and Romans and hymns? I mean, shit.
Wait a minute. We have a topic for this?
BlueChew.com? What the hell?
Blue Chew, Romans, and hymns are the websites that you see all over TV about Viagra and Cialis is now available to everybody. Blah, 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 blah.
Oh, my God.
Get your free consultation.
Yeah, there was somebody that
My dad's
and I will
a
not
doctor.
name names. I
He's
won't even
have.
tell you how I'm possibly related to this person, but I found out probably like 5 months ago that somebody close to me is taking that, and I was like, what? I was like, well, cool.
Hey,
I'm sorry to hear that. Like,
What's-
really feel bad for you.
listen, Stone Cold said several years ago, I know I can fuck, but I'm getting old and I want to keep fucking like I used to fuck.
Goddamn, somebody sees you get older. Some of your products may not work the way you expect them to. I have a little goddamn help. That's why I get that little blue pill. Goddamn, son.
Oh, shit.
So he's got to change it from Austin 316 just said I whooped your ass to Austin 316 says I just popped the blue pill.
It's not quite as
I
catchy.
just tapped that ass.
Stone Cold said so.
There.
What, Pat?
That's got the catchphrase factor right there. I just have.
We came up with a new catchphrase for Stone Cold tonight.
And then right after that catchphrase comes the big Cialis like logo. Cialis.
with two people sitting in the tubs, in the separate tubs, like they always show in that commercial.
While they're holding hands.
Evidently, Cialis gives you the power to have sex through materials, like you can put your dick right through another hot tub into another person.
Please hold my hand, baby. It will begin to rise as you touch me.
That commercial, they're like old porcelain tubs, you know.
Oh my lord! This is.
Are you trying to say they're porous?
I'm just saying that it's such a fucking mind trip of a commercial. It makes literally no sense.
Yes, I don't know anybody that owns a porcelain tub anymore, but
How many incantations of it are there?
It's Carnation Instant Breakfast. Get it right, man.
Six of them are sung.
Oh my gosh!
6 of them are sung by Rihanna, and the rest by Benedictine monks.
Oh my god! This is the most fun I think we've ever had in the first 20 minutes.
I don't even know what you're talking about right now, Pat. I'm so lost.
You don't know what I'm talking about?
No, you said,
Oh, son of a-
something about Bistine monks and Rihanna.
No. I'm just saying whatever comes into my mind. You like certain people who run the country. Oh,
Okay,
Here we
we're not going to go down that road. No political talk.
Definitely not.
I
Yes.
mean, that yellow brick road we won't come back from that one.
That would be an orange brick road.
Yes. Yes, very much so.
that will be the end of that. I promise. I'll be here.
All right, let's start talking about some wrestling.
Hey, I'm supposed to say that. Yes, let's start talking.
Wait.
Here we go.
Here we go.
We start talking about wrestling. Jeremy, is there a public service announcement you'd like to make?
Well, yes, there is a public service announcement I would like to say. I'm trying to grow a beard. No. That is not the public service announcement. And even if I let it go for another month, you still would have no idea that I'm trying to grow a beard. But anyways, yes, there is a public service announcement. As always, thank you, everybody, for tuning in, whether you're catching us on YouTube, you're catching in on iTunes, you're catching in on Spotify or Stitcher. We do appreciate you for tuning in. If you're catching it on YouTube, make sure you are hitting that like button, giving us a big thumbs up. make sure that you are setting your notifications on, subscribing to our channel so you never miss an episode. We come to you every single Monday. And if you are catching us on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher, make sure you are definitely giving us a rating so that we jump up there and more people like yourself can catch this and get the entertainment from our goofy asses just as much as we are entertaining ourselves, especially tonight.
Facts.
And, make sure you're leaving some comments. Let us know what's going on. Let us know what you guys are thinking of the episodes. We'd love to hear from you guys. Last but not least, we also have our Twitter, so you can definitely get engaged with us on Twitter. Our handle, what is our handle there, Theo?
Oh, shit. I forget.
You don't even know. No, it's at 4Guys Roundtable Show.
Is that what I named it?
Yeah, that's what you named it. If I'm wrong, I'm don't know what the hell's going on anymore. But and also always stay tuned to the end of the show for Mount Rushmore, which is going to be based on our topic this week, which is wrestling factions. Yeah, we're talking wrestling again. Yes, because we love wrestling just as much as we love Star Wars and all of the other goofy ass shit that we watch and enjoy. So, talking wrestling factions, we have 3 things that we are going to touch on, which I have right here. We are going to talk, what do you need for a successful faction? That's a good way to start it off. Do factions need to hold a majority of the belts? That's an interesting one. And then, which faction had the most impact on the industry? Which, that's going to be tough because there were some really good ones at some pretty integral ports and times in wrestling. But to kick it off, what do you need for a successful faction? Yes.
Real quick. So, I brought the Twitter account up.
Oh, okay.
So, it's at the number 4 guys, GUYZ, round table. It won't let me put show at the end of it for the at part.
Okay, so no show.
So it's at 4 guys, round table, GUYZ, because S sucks, Z is better, and the number 4. Okay, continue on. Thank you. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. So, AJ, why don't you kick us off with what do you need to have or for a successful faction?
I don't know if there's I always feel like I want at least 4 people in them. Like, I feel like it's harder when you have 3 because you kind of like the old school mentality was you wanted a tag team, a main event guy, and a mid card guy, and I think that that's the way I like it. I think when you start getting too carried away, like at least one faction we're going to talk about somewhere tonight where they just kept putting more people and more people and more people, and they got a little bit ridiculous eventually.
I have no what to be talking about.
So I think that you have to have, I think, at least a tag team and one singles wrestler, and I think that at least one of the guys, preferably more than one, need to be able to talk also. You can't have a faction with nobody that is good on the mic or decent on the mic. Maybe even the great factions back in the day, sometimes it was the manager. For like instance, the Heenan family, the manager was the mouthpiece.
Yes.
So I think earlier in the 80s and early 90s, sometimes the mouthpiece for the faction was the manager, whereas we definitely went away from that, where we don't really get that anymore.
Okay.
So I like it when it's 4. I do personally. I prefer 4. Mongo McMichael 4.
4. Yeah. So intense.
So 4. Okay.
What do you think? And like I said, they need to have a tag team, I think, at least, and at least one singles guy, preferably 2, a main event guy and a mid card guy. I think those are when they work the best. So what do you think, Pat?
Darth Pat.
See, I would tend to agree that I think, like 4 guys is what makes a faction. I think when you have, if it's only 3 guys, it's really not a faction, because it's like you could argue that like the first faction war was the Freebirds versus the Von Erichs down in World Class, but it was really always 3-on-3. So it's like, were you really considering them factions or just like groups or, 6-man, tags or 3-man tags. Well, see, that's you say stables, and that was the other thing I was going to bring up too. It's like, what's the difference between a faction and a stable? Because AJ mentioned the Heenan family. So to me, the Heenan family wasn't so much of a faction as it was a stable, in the sense that you've got the manager who's more or less the head, and then he's just got like the bunch of guys who work for him at any given point. And the members can be kind of interchangeable. Like, guys can come and go. Like, the Heenan family, for example, at various times you could have said, he had King Kong Bundy or Big John Studd or then Andre the Giant or Rick Rude or Mr. Perfect or the Brainbusters when they were in WWF. Or then he has, the Islanders, and then Haku as a single, and then like the Barbarian and all. And so guys kind of come and go. And then Jimmy Hart had his stable in Memphis, the First Family, which they never used that name when he came to WWF. But when he was in Memphis, like I'm looking at the Wikipedia page, guys who were in that stable at some point included Ox Baker, King Kong Bundy, Dennis Condrey, Bobby Eaton, Wayne Ferris before he was the Honky Tonk Man, Buddy Landell, Austin Idol, Kamala, Jim Neidhart, Lanny Poffo, the Iron Sheik, Kevin Sullivan, Coco B, Rick Rude, Randy Savage, Eddie Gilbert, Tommy Rich. That's a pretty impressive list of wrestlers, but it's like those guys, were all coming and going at various times. So it's like, were they ever really a faction? So I would kind of say no. I think that like AJ's definition kind of fits. Like, you kind of want to have parts that you do kind of want to have it kind of like fit together like a puzzle. Like, and the guys have more or less specified roles. And to me, in a lot of ways, and like when you're pointing to like what like the first faction really was, the Horsemen, and the original incarnation of the Horsemen, you got Flair as the world champ, Tully is like either like the U.S. champ or the TV champ, and Arn and Ole are the tag team at the time. Even though I don't think Arn and Ole ever won the NWA tag titles, but they were still like the tag team at first, and then like when they moved to later incarnations, like after Ole left, like when Luger came in, then Arn and Tully were tagging, and then Luger was like like the up and comer, and then like Luger left, and then Wyndham just kind of took his place, but you still kind of had like that part, and yeah, I think as having as many guys as possible be able to be solid mic guys was definitely important. I mean, it's kind of funny having J.J. Dillon manage the Horsemen, because all four of the Horsemen could talk. J.J. Dillon can talk too, but it's like, then you've just got 5 great interviews, and it's like you got to find time for like all of them to talk in like once maybe.
Yeah.
You didn't always see that repeated though as factions continued, obviously, and then of course, I think you would say I won't start listing them off now. We can talk about them later, but there were a lot of factions that were tried out in the 90s, especially, that weren't successful. And I think one of the reasons you could probably point to them, the reason for them not being successful is who was the good talker in the group, because there wasn't one. So I think like having those components are definitely necessary, because it's not just about having an adversary or all being able to go in the ring. You have to also, either if you're a heel faction, which let's face it, most factions are heels by definition, you have to really make the fans hate you. You have to give them a reason to hate you.
You mean the oddities weren't awesome?
You don't do that just in the baby faces, this is definitely one I was thinking of, but there were some other ones that went there in the 90s that also qualify for that group essentially. So
yeah, no, absolutely. And I would have to say you guys are right on point with the whole factions. I really don't have anything to add to it, but I do agree with the point you guys made with factions. There's definitely any faction that I've ever seen that worked, they always had the tag team guys, a mid-card guy, and a champion guy. I mean, that just seems to be the right formula for a faction to really work. And anything outside of that, like you mentioned, the oddities, they were terrible for a reason. They didn't have anybody in that group that was any of those things. I don't even think they had anybody that could talk on the mic. So
isn't that why they kind of hooked him up with the Insane Clown Posse?
That was probably, if we wanted to list like the worst factions ever, they would probably be at the top of the list.
They'd be on the list for sure.
Yes.
I feel so sorry for Earthquake that he had to play that.
Yeah, but so that I would agree that is definitely the formula that works the best. I can't think of any other factions that weren't kind of that formula. You guys mentioned the Freebirds, and the Freebirds, they were kind of different because I never heard them referred to as a faction. They were always referred to as a tag team, like a tag team with 3 guys. That's how they always referred to them. That's all I can ever remember them being referred to as a tag team, and they would switch out whoever they wanted to. And now they even refer to it with the New Day as the Freebird rule. Well, at least they were for quite a while. They were calling it the Freebird rule.
We kind of had one. We did have one faction in the last recent memory, the Shield, that was only 3, and that worked.
Yeah.
That worked with 3. They're like the exception, though, I think. Like, that legitimately worked with 3. They didn't need a 4th guy there. So, but
they had 2 guys that could really talk on the mic with Dean Ambrose and
Seth.
Yeah, Seth Rollins. So,
And the interesting thing about that is, like, kind of like the description I kind of gave there about, like, how, like, with the Horsemen, for example, like Flair's the world champion, Tully's got the secondary singles belt, and then Arn and Ole are going after the tag belts. It's kind of funny in retrospect because there was a time, of course, with the Shield where Ambrose was the U.S. champ and Reigns and Rollins were the tag champs. So it's like the component that they were missing was the world champ part.
Yeah.
And of course, but I think that was because they knew where they were eventually taking them all with it. And of course, all 3 of them did become world champions.
Yes.
That's kind of an interesting little twist to it. But yeah, the Shield I would definitely agree with AJ saying that they're still kind of the exception to the rule in that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, yeah, in the Von Erichs, they actually had more than 3, I think, at one time. I think they had up to 4, but they still only ever really were no more than 3 guys at a time at the ring, unless you included their dad, maybe, when he decided to throw his weight around and be in the ring too at his age.
At first, it was Kevin, David, and Kerry. I don't think Mike was really wrestling yet. Then David died, and then like they kind of pushed Mike into it.
Right.
Like it's like you've got to take your brother's place, which is like, oh, thanks for the pressure, and of course that that basically led to the guy killing himself, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Of course, but yeah, it's like there was really never a time where there was like 4 Von Erichs wrestling at once, unless it's like you said, you count like one of the times where like Fritz would come out of retirement, or it would be like when they introduced Lance Von Erich, who was the fake cousin, which was
was terrible.
Which it totally it totally backfired on them.
Yeah, because nobody believed it. Like they were like, who? What?
Nobody believed it, and like I think it was Gary Hart, the late great Gary Hart, told the story on the WWE produced DVD about World Class. Like fans came up to him and like asked him, what do you think of Lance Von Erich? And he was like, who are you talking about? And they said, oh, we've figured out he's like not really a Von Erich. The Von Erichs lied to us. We don't like them anymore. So like it really like hurt the Von Erichs like trust with their audience. So it's like, yeah, you got to be careful when you're playing around with that name.
Well, it was funny because we talked about Fritz briefly here, kind of throwing his weight around coming out of retirement. I actually watched the Von Erichs with Fritz against the Freebirds when they were, I forget what stadium it was, when they had like one of the outdoor stadiums.
It was Texas Stadium where the Cowboys used to play.
Okay. And that was probably, when it comes down to it, just based on wrestling that I've seen over the years and matches and how great matches I've seen and some stinkers, that match was a clusterfuck of shit. Like,
well, I know the match you were talking about. I believe that was from the first David Von Erich Memorial Parade of Champions, they called it. It was the show where Kerry Von Erich beat Ric Flair for the NWA title. Yeah, they did what they called a come as you are match, which meant like however like you could dress however you wanted and like come to the ring with whatever you wanted. And like it was like then like legal to use that in the match, but it was Fritz, Kevin, and Mike Von Erich against the Freebirds of Michael Hayes.
No, Kerry Von Erich, not Kerry Von Erich. Damn it.
It would have been Fritz, Kevin, and Mike. I'm pretty sure.
Kevin. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Kevin and Kevin and Mike, because Kerry was there, but he didn't wrestle that day. That's right. You have it right. Sorry.
Yeah, no, he won the title from Ric Flair that night. That's why. So that's why he wasn't in that match, because he was wrestling Ric Flair because there was the perception that they were going to push David Von Erich to the title before he died and everything. So
my apologies.
Yeah, they subbed Kerry in, but then they took the belt off Kerry after like 3 weeks because they realized that he wasn't reliable, unfortunately. But
for my
his problems, so.
Like, the reason I said it was a clusterfuck of shit is because you're watching Fritz Von Erich beat, I hate when my memory doesn't work.
He beat all three of the Freebirds at various points.
With his belt, he eventually had his boot off and beating him with a boot. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Like, this is terrible.
There's two things I would say to that. First, it was 1984. No, but I'm serious. I'm like that's even
true.
That's even still pre-WrestleMania, you know. So it's like it's still kind of primitive in a lot of ways, and there wasn't really such a thing as like hardcore wrestling. But that match was meant to just be like a brawl and everything. But the other thing is like when you watch that match, the crowd is into it. I mean, like the crowd,
they are.
Was into that feud. They're literally hanging on every single action that occurs in that match. So that's how the feud was.
It was just really. I found something very comical about it is to find Michael Hayes flopping around, like like continuously, like as Fritz, like this old dude that probably has barely any power anymore, hits him with stuff. He's like, oh my god, and flying around. So that was at least you sold really well for Fritz. So that was nice of him.
Yeah.
Well, Michael Hayes knew what his role was. Like he was the shit talker of the Freebirds. So he was the one that could get the crowds riled up, and then get the crowd anxious to see him get his ass kicked. So yeah, of course he's going to oversell for Fritz then because he knows that that's what the fans want to see.
Yeah. So Theo, you have anything to add to factions as we kind of took a left turn there to some older days?
Turn to Dallas.
Not in particular. I mean, if you're going to start out with 3, I'm okay with 3, but if you're going to start out with 3 guys, you have to at least add that 4th or 5th person, within the next couple months of being around as a faction, if you really want to be truly successful, and be around for an extended period of time. But you at least do need to have 4, maybe 5 guys in your faction to make it legitimately successful. Oh, do we have special guests this evening?
I might have a special guest. Yeah, I do have a special guest. He's coming to visit me.
Uh-oh.
So we'll move in while I got my special guest to do factions need to hold the majority of the belts? Do they need to? Is it necessary?
I mean, it's cool when it's happened. I'm not going to pretend like it's not cool when it's happened. It's only Evolution and the Undisputed Era.
I mean, the Horsemen held a lot of titles at various times, but yeah, I'm not sure. Well, no, wasn't there a time where Flair was world champ, Wyndham was U.S. champ, and Arn and Tully were tag champs?
Yeah, I'm only talking about like in the last 20 years was Evolution and Undisputed Era.
Well, the point I kind of want to make is that on the Ric Flair and the Four Horsemen DVD that WWE put out, I think it was like 15 years ago now. Yeah, it had to be because Benoit was interviewed on it, so that means he was on it. There was a part that they were talking, and I think it was Arn who was talking about. They had like the attitude that they had all the belts because it was working.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the big thing that I think a lot of people don't fully understand as far as the difference between WWF and Jim Crockett Promotions, for lack of a better term, NWA. WWF was a babyface territory. The faces generally held the belts.
Right.
Or got the long runs with them, and heels didn't get long runs with belts. It was kind of the opposite in Crockett, where the faces were constantly chasing the heels who had the belts. So like, and again, some of the stories that like Arn Anderson was telling was like, oh, the Midnight Express were jealous because they could only be the United States Tag Team Champions, which was like it's like the equivalent of the United States title or the Intercontinental title. So that everybody's getting jealous because we're holding all the belts, but hey, it's working. I think that it can work for a time, but I think you got to be very, very careful with it, because I think you can't let that happen for a very long period of time. Like when Evolution had all four, like AJ was saying, I don't think that lasted for more than, I want to say, 2 months before I think Flair and Batista lost the tag belts back to whoever it was. I don't remember if it was the Dudleys or if it was somebody else. Because
I don't remember.
I think if you try to run with that for too long,
it gets stale.
It gets stale, and you're going to piss off the audience, because the whole point of the chase is for the babyface to finally win. So if you're not going to actually do it, if you're going to keep booking like Dusty finishes like they did in Crockett because, hey, Dusty was booking, or anything like that, you're eventually going to piss the audience off, and they're not going to want to see it anymore. They're not really going to, they're not really going to care. I mean, it doesn't mean that you take the belts off all of them, at the same time or anything, but you can't really have them. You can't have extended periods of time with them having all the belts.
When it happens and it works, it's good. And the 2 times I've seen it happen recently, it's worked. Like it was fine when it was fine when it happened. I think that both situations were good. I think Undisputed, they had them for like 4 months. Their stint was a little bit longer than Evolution's, I think. So
you just gotta find the right people too. You gotta figure out who in that group is going to be able to, like. So if you have the tag belts, are you going to have the tag team how over is each guy? How over the tag team? How over is the singles guy? How over are they, to determine who's going to hold the belt longer than the other ones, and who you're going to put into a feud that goes back and forth, or back and forth between a couple people, things of that nature. I think all factions at some point, I think they need to like just conquer and take all the belts. Maybe 2 months max, 3 months max, depending on the story, who you all got involved in it. But they all need to at least conquer those belts at some point or another. But like I said, you got to figure out which guys are really the over guys who could talk, who's got the good in-ring skills, and who you're gonna put in what programs with what people to, try to break the longest, record for the holding the belt for the longest time, or any of that bullshit. Just, evaluate what's going on to make it work properly.
Yeah, and so with one second, Pat, Darth Pat, I'll let you then take over. I think with the whole belt situation, that the one thing I like about factions is, because they're normally heels, is you have that cheat factor where, and you see it. I don't know. I haven't watched NXT in a while, because I'm not a big fan of how they're doing it with no fans. It really is weird for me. I don't enjoy watching it, but I know with Undisputed Era, when they had the tag belts, it was like somebody at some point in time, whether they were down at the ring at that time or they were running down to the ring at some point in time, they were going to cheat somehow to help them win.
They did a lot.
That's the real, and I think that's the real draw of factions for me, is even if they don't have all the belts, which I'm okay with, I'm okay with them having all the belts too at some point in time, as long as it's not a crazy long run with it. But I like that element that they're going to cheat. It's like, when is it going to come? They're supposed to be the heels. So I enjoy that part of factions, with the fact that they, that cheat factor, as long as it's not like ridiculous, like the ref, there's no way that the ref didn't see that they cheated, and they still got away with it. It's all right if they cheated and, ref missed it. But if they cheat and the ref sees it, there's got to be, the ref has to do something. Like I've seen times where ref has seen the big cheat and they're just like, oh, okay, I don't think I was supposed to see that. Continue. It's like, no, like you got to enforce the rules of wrestling and what it means in the match. So that's the only time I don't like the cheat factor. But, like I said, I really enjoy that portion of factions is that whole cheat factor. When is it going to come? How's it going to happen for them? Darth Pat, what were you going to say?
I was going to say the interesting kind of thing about factions holding all the belts is that they never did that with the NWO. And I think that's because
too many people.
The way that there
wasn't 20 belts.
It wasn't just that. It was like the way that they started adding people in the months after the first formation was kind of irregular and everything. But the closest they got to it was Hogan had the world title, Nash and Hall had the tag belts, and Syxx stole the U.S. title, from Eddie Guerrero, or I think it was.
Something like that.
So they had possession of it. But then it's like they never had the Cruiserweight title. It's like the NWO really never Syxx did hold it a couple times, but it always seemed like that was a title that they never were really concerned with. But that, like I said, that had more to do with just the way they grew the belts. And the other thing is their title runs, they get a little stale. Hogan held the title for a year, dropped it to Luger for what was it, a week, then won it back to just build to the Sting match, and then they screwed all that up. But with Nash and Hall, what did they lost the tag titles 3 or 4 times just for Bischoff to give them back to them and everything. So that got tedious.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you let the inmates run the asylum. So we know there was a big downfall at WCW. They were letting the inmates run the asylum. So,
or you've got the guy who's in charge of everything who just is more or less starstruck and just lets those guys do what they want. So
oh my God, it's Hogan. He's got to have the title.
Can't
Give a
say
title
no.
to him.
Look, but at the same time, if Hogan's going to turn heel, yeah, he has to have the belts because
at some point.
For a period of time, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's like if you turn him heel and you don't have him win the title, it's kind of stupid.
No, that's 100% true. I'm sure we'll get back to that later.
The problem is that he's winning the title off of a guy who was also really a heel at the time. So WCW didn't have the right guy holding the belts. It's like Hogan should have been beating Sting or Savage or some other babyface, to win the title the first time. Even if Flair had been a heel because Flair was still Mr. WCW.
Yeah,
very true.
Absolutely.
All right, so before we move on to our final topic of today, let's do another quick public service announcement for all our fans out there. We want to thank you guys so much for tuning in, no matter where you're catching us. If you're catching us on YouTube, once again, always make sure you turn on those notifications, give us a big thumbs up, like our podcast, and subscribe to our channel so you never, ever miss a wonderful episode. Leave a comment because we'd love to know what you guys think. And if you are catching us on iTunes, Stitcher, or Spotify, thank you guys for listening in there also. Don't forget to give us a rating so we can jump up and more people like yourself can catch us on this crazy journey that we call a podcast, if that's what you want to kind of call it. I guess we could say it's a podcast or just a giant bullshit session every week. Either way, we're having fun. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Once again, we do have a Twitter account, so you can catch us at 4 guys with a Z roundtable, so that you guys can interact with us there also. You'll also catch, we do put the links up there to all our podcasts on our Twitter account. And always stay tuned to the end of the show and catch the Mount Rushmore this week, which is going to be based on wrestling. You can probably guess what it's going to be, but please stay tuned to the end so you do not miss it. So let's go on to our last topic, guys, and that is which faction had the most impact on the industry, which this ought to be interesting with 4 of us, some of us more historical in nature of wrestling, and me being kind of the guy that really likes the newer stuff. So
there's a couple. I think there's 2 or 3. I think you can definitely make a case for.
Okay, go ahead. What do you think, AJ?
3 main ones at least.
The 4 Horsemen, the NWO, and DX. I think those 3 are the ones that probably had the biggest impact. the NWO and D-Generation X are two of the biggest merch sellers in wrestling history. So you've got two factions who's in the top 5 or 10 merchandise sales wise all time. So
yes,
true.
I don't want to get into too much depth with those two because I have a feeling we may be talking about them later.
That's a possibility.
So, but I do think that you can't. I think the Horsemen probably started it. I think you have to go back to them and like kind of highlight them as the first one that was recognizable, even though not a lot of people were watching WCW back in the late 80s. I know I was watching it, but a ton of people weren't watching it compared to what WWF was doing. But I think the NWO or the Four Horsemen is the one that I remember the most from my childhood, probably. And then the NWO came, and if we don't get the NWO, we don't get DX, essentially. So, like, those two kind of...
Well, yeah, NWO...
One was the byproduct of the other.
Yeah. NWO, if the NWO didn't happen, there's no doubt we don't get D-Generation X.
Or the Attitude. We don't even get the Attitude Era, probably.
Right.
So,
probably not. Possibly, most likely not, but definitely not DX, because without the need for some kind of crazy-ass faction to counteract the NWO, why would Vince even think he would need something like that? He would, we're still good doing the crazy, goofy gimmicks, cartoon superhero guys, and we'll be fine with that. Just keep going, keep rolling. We maybe we go a little edgier and we say sex.
Obviously Theo is kind of thinking what I'm thinking with the factions there, huh?
Yeah. I mean, those are the main 3 ones. You don't get DX without the NWO. And I mean, there's a lot of other things that, you really probably don't get the Attitude Era at all. I mean, you just think about what happened when Hogan turned, one of the biggest baby faces of all time, turning heel.
Everything changed.
Everything legitimately just changed. Like, when was the last time you saw a crowd get so pissed off at a professional wrestler where they throw
that much shit in the ring
and just tossing it into the ring, just littering the shit out of a professional wrestling ring? And poor Mean Gene, he's probably just like, what the fuck is going on right now? He's just like, I gotta keep my face and just keep doing this promo with Hogan, even though there's shit being thrown at us. But it really did start a lot of other things that came down the road.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say, I remember some old TNA shows where the audience realized Jeff Jarrett was about to win the title again, where they started throwing shit in it like that. But it's like, would they have ever known to do that if they hadn't thrown him at the NWO first?
Correct.
Yeah, true. Well, the crazy thing is that, if you listening to different wrestling podcasts that I have done, that I've listened to, like Stone Cold and Jericho and some other ones that I've listened to from former professional wrestlers or bookers, there was, like, back in the 70s and early 80s, like, people really believed in wrestling, like that it was really, because there was so real. Much because there was so much kayfabe. There was no breaking kayfabe at that point in time. No. You didn't ride with a babyface. You only rode with heels if you were a heel, and you only rode with babyfaces if you were a babyface. So nobody ever knew that you were friends with anybody else other than the other bad guys or good guys. So there was a lot of stories that I heard of, especially when guys went to Puerto Rico and stuff like that, about piss being thrown on them and batteries being thrown on them and shit like that. It's like, dude, like, that's a little nuts. Like, I probably wouldn't have gone to Puerto Rico to wrestle.
And back then, too, it was like more, I want to say the wrestling was different, too. It's kind of like, I don't want to compare it to Strong Style in New Japan, but it was a lot of grappling type of wrestling and throwing, suplexes and hip tosses and a lot of like the physical part of like the technical wrestling. So I can see why like a lot of people thought that shit was like legitimately real, even though we're fooling all you people at the end of the day for the most part. But yeah, I mean, I've watched some old matches that I've been able to find on YouTube and other outlets and whatnot, and like, yeah, I can kind of see where these people are coming from. Yeah. Like the style and the headlocks were just more like forceful. You can see like when the guy's grabbing him, he's putting him in a headlock, you can see his like not just holding him, but like you see his muscles start bulging because he's actually like holding that in and kind of squeezing on it and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, they were really kind of, you know, getting a little more physical, you know, back then. So yeah, I get where the crowd's coming from.
Well, and that's kind of where some of the stuff that's lost in wrestling anymore is, you know, making shit look real, even though you know it's planned. You know, you still should make it look real. Like, if you're going to slap a headlock on somebody, slap a headlock on them. Like, you know, make it look like you're putting them in pain, you know, crushing their head.
That, too, and the submission holds. Submission holds are a joke anymore. People don't know. I've watched MMA since the mid-'90s as well, so submission holds, I'll always find them cool. I'm a fan of submission holds, but...
I think they're boring.
I know, and it just because professional wrestlers they do it such half-ass, and they
That's true.
They oversell it in the wrong way for it to be looking legitimate, and it's just not.
My favorite,
and that's the problem.
My favorite was the John Cena step over toe hold, like face.
The STFU.
Yeah, the STFU. That was my favorite because his arms are so damn big that he never like locked the dude's face in. Like, the guy could have slipped his head out at any point in time. It's like,
I'm gonna hold
dude, you're not hurting anybody with that fucking thing. It's so bad.
I do remember I'm just making a point of the whole like wrestling being real. I do remember in Booker T's book, he talks about Goldberg like sitting in the office, and he said he thought Goldberg actually thought it was real at one point. So
I'm telling you, I know we're kind of going off on a tangent about factions, but I have to tell you, I saw an interview with the Goldberg, and the way he talked, he did think it was fucking real. He thought he was like, every match that he won was like, I won that match. Like, nah, dude, like, they knew you were gonna win, and like the guy that was losing knew he was going to lose.
That's what I remember from Booker T's book, because like I remember when I read his book and I was disappointed because it was just mostly about like when he was in jail and when he was in WCW. It wasn't really about WWE, but that's what I remember from his book. Him saying that him and Steiner and Goldberg were in the office one day, and he's like, I don't know what was going on, but he's like, Goldberg was having an argument with Bischoff. Like, he was legitimately mad if he was going to lose because he thought this was real.
Well, and either he really thought it was real, or Goldberg was that intense and that into his character that he never broke kayfabe and believe, you know, had to make believe that he was believing that he was always winning. But anyways, so you want to add something real quick?
He was definitely intense, but he is guilty of something that Jim Cornette said about Bret Hart a lot over the years, is that he took himself too seriously. He couldn't like back off, I guess you could say, from it, because it's very possible what you're talking about with like Goldberg being pissed off too is like you know, if you remember the Jericho angle.
Oh yeah.
Jericho was like constantly calling him out and everything. And Jericho in his first book, like, you know, was like recounting those stories. Like, yeah, he gets called into the office and there's Bischoff and Hogan and Goldberg. And, you know, they're like, you know, Goldberg's pissed off and Bischoff's like, why are you doing what you're doing and everything? And Jericho's like, you told me I could. And Bob listen, and Goldberg's like, I don't do this comedy stuff. and Hogan just kind of sitting there going like, what the hell's going on? and Jericho's like, Bill, you're not doing comedy stuff. I'm doing comedy stuff. You know, he's just like I'm the one who's making myself out to be an idiot because I honestly believe that because I call you out and you don't show up when everybody knows you're not here, that means I have a victory over you. You know, it's like Goldberg couldn't see what the benefit was.
The genius of it.
Yeah, because the genius was it would have got if Goldberg had followed had, you know, just eased up and like let them like follow through with it completely, it would have elevated both of them, because he would have had Jericho calling Goldberg out for however many months it was or whatever. And then, you know, so he's pissing the audience off because the audience was 100% behind Goldberg then. And eventually it's going to lead to Goldberg just breaking him in half, which is what everybody wants to see. Goldberg's not going to look any worse for doing that because he's doing exactly what the audience wants him to do, which is kick the shit out of somebody. And Jericho is going to give the audience what they want to, and that he's going to get the shit kicked out of him.
Right.
They would have both been better off for it in the long run, but they just kept mixing it because Goldberg basically just couldn't lighten up. So
Why does that not surprise me?
He's-
But anyways, Darth Pat, do you have anything to add to factions that had a major role in the industry, like game-changing factions?
no, I mean I really think we've said them all because, like I said, it's like if they weren't a faction, they were a stable. Like you could make an argument that some of these heel managers with their stables were groundbreaking in certain ways. But again, they weren't really factions. They weren't all working towards like a common goal or something. So they all had like their own agenda still. Like factions still generally have like an overriding agenda, and like the Horsemen was just the Four Horsemen. The agenda was basically protect Ric Flair as champion. Because that's what you would always do. Like the Andersons would the shit out of Dusty or Magnum or whoever was opposing Flair for like that month or whatever. The NWO, of course, it was we're here to take we're taking over. DX, it was basically just you can't tell us what to do. So there's really no other faction I can think of. It was like as good as like isn't just as an example. As good of a faction as the Shield were, they didn't change the game.
Right.
No.
There wasn't anything game changing about them, and there have been other factions that were like entertaining too. But again, I wouldn't say that they were like game changers.
Evolution was cool. Evolution, yeah. Spirit Squad was awesome.
Well, we do have and that's the thing we got. I think we do need to talk about a couple of factions that just they may not have been game changing, but they were fun to watch, or they were really good factions. Like I think the Spirit Squad was awesome.
Well,
I don't care what anybody says.
I think at this point, I think it's okay for us to just name drop a little bit and talk about some factions. So
sure, let's do some name dropping. My name's Jeremy.
Oh my God.
The Spirit Squad. I mean, come on. When we were totally crazy, we were doing our wrestling, and
it was fun to be them, wasn't it?
We were the Spirit Squad. I mean, I went I think I mentioned this, you guys, not during the podcast, but I went back and watched some of that stuff, and I saw one of the Spirit Squad promos that we did. It was me and one of our other friends, and we were doing a stretching one, and Johnny Japan comes in and he wants to be part of the Spirit Squad. He stole somebody's shirt and put his name on it. And then the Wallies come in and they're imitating the stretching, and we're being a little doing some stretching that could be considered inappropriate or sexual in nature, but it was just fun to be that goofy.
It was suggestive.
Suggestive.
I believe all four of us were in the Super Squad.
Yes, we did do the super. Yeah, we called it the Super Squad because we didn't want to have anybody getting.
All four of us were members
at various times. Yeah.
Yes.
Not ever consistently, because we kind of used it like here and there at various times.
I believe in the first promo we did, all four of us that are on this video, on this podcast, were in the first promo.
That's a very good possibility. And I think Johnny Japan stole Joey's shirt.
He stole his pants.
Well, no, I mean, for the promo that I was talking about, I think he stole Joey's shirt and put Johnny on there instead of Joey or something.
Yes.
It's just really, really fun.
Because I remember you had the megaphone and you were like, Pat! So four of the five people in the first Super Squad promo, all four of us were in that.
And I mean, what came out of the out of the Spirit Squad in WWE. Dolph Ziggler. Yeah. And if Kenny would have kept his shit together, so to say, he probably would have done WWE. I think he would have, because he was a hell of a talent. He just, whatever the heck his I don't want to say mental, but his attitude is what caused him not to be there very long after the Spirit Squad broke up.
It was attitudinal with him, and of course he's he's also one of those guys who was like, oh, it was all Cena's fault.
Yeah, it's Cena's fault that you're acting like an idiot.
Cena, let's bring up the Nexus. Yeah, there you go.
There we go. That was a good faction. I like them.
Cena ruined that. Cena did ruin that.
He did. Yeah.
He 100% is to blame on that one.
Oh, on the Nexus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's admitted to that too, but it's like, yeah, but it's like that one Family Guy line where they're making fun of Sean Connery only to reveal that Sean Connery is in the same room the whole time. They talk about apologizing. It's like, it's too late. The damage is done.
What was the other faction that came out of Nexus? Wasn't there?
The Core.
Yeah,
yes,
that's
the Core. That was a lame attempt.
That was memorable.
The Nexus together.
That's why I couldn't remember the name. I just knew there was something that came out of it.
There's another faction that was cool that if you go to the website, it takes you to AEW's website, correct, Joe?
Yes, it does.
Right to censor.
Right to censor.
So if you actually type in your web browser, right to censor, it takes you to AEW.com. It's not a joke. It's on one of the AEW pages I follow on Facebook, and I was like, let me see. So I hopped on my phone, and I typed it in, and I'm like, holy shit, it really goes to AEW.
They were entertaining. I liked Right to Censor. I thought they were entertaining.
I'm going to be honest, I don't remember them. I don't remember Right to Censor.
They dressed up in like white shirts and ties and black pants. Like Bull Buchanan was in it, and
what was her name?
The woman was in it.
It was Stevie Richards, Bull Buchanan, the Godfather who became the Good Father.
Yeah.
Val Venus and Ivory.
Ivory.
Yeah.
Ivory was like the school teacher lady.
Yes.
Kind of.
They dressed in like, white shirts and black pants and black
Amish.
They were like out to, stop anything that was like overly suggestive or sexualized from happening. And they were they were a parody on the well-known, going to get a little political here, unfortunately, the well-known conservative lobbying group that's called the Parents Television Council, the PTC.
Yes, I remember.
Okay.
They've always had, for lack of a better term, a hard-on for WWE. The Attitude Era started in terms of like their content and everything. So Vince being Vince got the idea, who knows who came up with it, and can't even say Russo because he was gone by that point. The letters P and R are pretty close to each other in the alphabet. Why don't we come up with a group called the RTC, the Right to Censor, because that's all the PTC is trying to do. They're trying to censor us. And we'll let them be like the annoying heel group that nobody likes, and we'll give them this music where it's just like like this blaring siren going like
It was so annoying. I hated when they came out.
Yeah. So I mean they served their purpose for a while. They also, of course, led to Jerry Lawler quitting WWF, in 2001 because they'd gotten like his then wife, the Cat, into the angle and everything. But they were also wise enough to break them up. I'm not even sure if they were together for a full year, but
they weren't.
They sensed that like it had run its course, and they broke them up soon enough.
And it's funny that you would put Val Venus in there because he was the big Valboski at one point in time. He's like, hello, ladies.
And the Godfather, like, really?
So, yeah.
I mean, the Godfather running his whole train.
And in some ways, too, it was kind of funny that Steven Richards,
yeah,
was the leader of that group, considering that he had been in, like, the BWO.
Right, yes. The BWO, there's a good faction.
BWO, Blue Meanie, baby.
Not that the BWO was, like, necessarily controversial or anything, but just because, the BWO were a parody group. So it's like he moved from a parody group that was out there to be funny to a group that, again, was really a parody group. It's just they were parodying something outside of wrestling, and he played the role super serious instead. So
Joe, which of these two did you like better? The main event Mafia or Fortune? I like Fortune better personally. So
Didn't they both equally suck in the aspect being that while they had really good people in them, the whole purpose of the factions were pretty stupid?
I mean, it wasn't. Neither of them were. They did have pretty good people in both of them. I will give them that for sure.
Can I pick the aces of eights?
Okay. I liked Fortune because I liked all the guys that were in Fortune. Like, I mean, we see them in the woo off. That's who's in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
I'm a toss up on that. Maybe I give a little bit to Fortune and not Main Event Mafia, but I'm a big Sting guy too, so it was kind of.
I just wanted to throw some TNA out there because I thought it was those ones were kind of neat.
They were. The funny part is Aces and A's actually weren't a bad idea. I just don't think all of it was
done right
properly and done. Yes, done properly. Because they had guys in there that should have been elevated to be those guys that should have been holding belts, but it didn't happen that way. There were some good things that they did do, for a while, but there was a point where some of them they just made it a little bit too stale, and they went in a bad direction.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Even though, I was gonna. If you were gonna still talk about TNA, I was gonna throw something else out there. I was gonna say so. Technically, even though the Dudleys were a tag team, they had Sign Guy Dudley, they had Gertner, they had Big Dick Dudley. What did we consider them?
Yeah, I was considering them a faction in ECW.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
The Dudley family.
Yeah, the Dudley family.
And Spike even too.
Yeah.
So
Spike Dudley. They had enough to be considered a faction.
Was the Straight Edge Society considered a faction?
I was going to bring them up. They were my favorite. That was my favorite thing that CM Punk did was in the Straight Edge Society. To this day, that's my favorite thing that CM Punk did was the Straight Edge Society. I loved it.
It was good. Yep. I definitely liked it.
So that was still considered a faction. I wasn't sure because it was only three.
There was only three of them.
Yeah, and one of them was a woman, so it was a kind of a weird faction considering what we defined as a faction.
That was Punk, Gallows, and
Gallows. Look, Gallows trying to look like an idiot.
No, wasn't there four? Because wasn't Joey Mercury part of it at one point?
He was.
Yeah, at the later end, I think he was.
Yeah, I remember him being there towards the end. Yeah.
I really liked them. Like that's one of those that's my oddball faction that I really really liked. Like they're written down on my list.
Nice.
Yeah, they're definitely.
Mentioned the Hart Foundation yet?
Yes, when they were the heels.
Yeah. Right, and I was gonna say the Hart Foundation when they were all about Canada, we hate America, right?
Yes.
Fabulous.
Yeah, the 1997 Hart Foundation, which was Bret, Owen, Bulldog, Anvil, and Pillman.
Fabulous.
And it was great because Bret finally was able to just kind of let loose on the mic, and he gave some of his best promos then. And there was a time there again where he was the world champion. Owen and Bulldog had the tag belts at one point. I think Owen or Bulldog also had the European title for whatever that was worth. And it's kind of funny that because we talk about DX and everything. It's kind of funny that the Hart Foundation were a heel group, but when DX became a thing, they were too. So it was like a heel group, arose because they were fighting with another heel group. I don't know if that's ever really happened, other than maybe when the original, nation split off and Crush formed the DOA and.
Oh my lord!
Oh, the Nation of Domination had another one there too.
Yeah.
And Savio Vega formed, Los Boricuas. The DOA and Los Boricuas, and also really, what was it?
It was DOA. It was the Disciples of Apocalypse, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
There was
Disciples of Terribleness.
Yeah, but there were four, other than the Hart in '97, other than the Hart Foundation and DX, there were four groups. There was the Nation, there was the DOA, there was the Boricuas, and there was the other one. It's escaping me now.
Wasn't the LWO, was it?
No, it was in WWF.
No, WWE.
Whoa. The Truth Commission.
Oh, the truth.
They were bad. They were terrible.
Don't even really remember the truth.
Jackal and Kurgan.
Yes, Kurgan. Before he was an oddity.
Right. And it's like, it was supposed to be like a commentary on like the South African Truth Commissions that like after like apartheid ended and everything. But like, what I was trying to get to is that DOA, Los Boricuas, and the Truth Commission were all the kind of for me, like kind of like the definitions of like those groups that didn't really have anybody who could talk. Like Crush wasn't a great promo, neither were any.
No, you're right.
Like,
they sucked on the mic, all of them.
Savio Vega and the Boricuas weren't good. None of the guys in the Truth Commission were good, except Don Callis became good. But I don't really think Don Callis
really became when he was
until he went to ECW.
Right, when he was Jackal, then yeah.
So it's like those are the factions that I was thinking of. Was like, you know, they might have been together for a little while and everything, but ultimately they didn't work because they didn't have anybody who could really connect with the audience in a way that made them hate him or cheer for them. So
was it Kurgan? Was he Corporal Kurgan in that?
No,
I can't remember. He was because it wasn't just Kurgan. He had like a title attached to his name.
I think it was the Interrogator. I'm going to look that up though because
I just remember he had a beret and like a military suit. It was terrible.
My lord, it was so bad, so bad.
They all wore berets.
Bad, bad.
Yeah.
Kurgan was in two of the worst factions ever. He doesn't even get credited for one. He was in two.
That's horrible.
That's the list you don't want to appear on, Kurgan. That one, twice.
So it was Kurgan the Interrogator.
The Interrogator.
It was Recon. That was Bull Buchanan.
Oh my lord.
Him being Recon.
Yeah. Sniper, who was a guy named Luke Poirier, who.
So
basically, that was the biggest he ever got, and then it was Don Callis as the Jackal. So
Bull Buchanan was in the Truth Commission, right to censor, and then he was B2 with John Cena, or B squared with John Cena.
Mm-hmm.
and in between them, they had also like put him with like the Boss Man. Bull Buchanan, and I don't mean to knock the guy, but it's like he might be like at the very top of the list of like how many failed gimmicks in WWE. I mean, you could say he had a little bit of success with Right to Censor, but
he did.
For the most part, it was constantly like, well, let's find a way to repackage this guy.
All I can picture is him at the end of Cena's promos going, "Booyah!"
Actually, and then Cena just kicked his ass, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of Canada, we can go back to TNA for Team Canada. That was a good.
Team Canada was awesome.
I loved Team Canada back in the day.
Jared was my favorite character in that group. Jared, he was my favorite character.
Him, Eric Young, Bobby Roode,
Canadian Destroyer, Petey Williams.
Petey Williams was in there, and
there was no Jared. There was no Jared.
But yeah, that's just it. Like Team Canada, when you think about it, yeah, they launched. Petey Williams, Bobby Roode, and Eric Young have all had pretty successful careers. So,
did you?
What was the guy that looked like Jared though? What was his name?
Scott D'Amore.
Scott D'Amore. Thank you.
Did you see Did you see the thing with MJF with Kurt Hawkins? Oh my gosh! If you didn't see that, Joe, Kurt Hawkins is unpackaging like the AEW ring, and MJF walks in. He's like, "Oh, are you still playing with toys? How old are you?" And he says like something. He at the end he's like, "Tell that Scott D'Amore guy I said hi," and then he's like, "I'm just fucking kidding with you. Tell him to throw my fucking number away." MJF touches a mic right now. It's priceless, basically.
Well, isn't it also a knock on Impact? Because isn't Scott D'Amore one of Impact's bookers?
Yes, he is, 100%. Because I watched some other thing, too, where MJF was cooking mushrooms and drinking margaritas with brandy. Fucking comedy.
Yeah, but Team Canada was good. I like Team Canada.
Cool.
There was one guy in what was it, Ace? Was it Ace or Big A?
The big goon guy.
Yeah, what was his name? Big A or Ace or something like that, or
something like that. I don't remember off the top.
But he was
A1.
A1.
Yeah,
I knew
A1.
it had an A in it.
A1
That's all I
steak
can
sauce.
Come on, that's how memorable that guy was. Like he literally was just like AJ said, the big goon. Like he was the goon. Like,
yeah.
He didn't last after Team Canada. He was like kind of gone. Like, where'd he go? Oh, yeah, he stank. That's right.
Bring up some dark ones. We could do the Brood and the Ministry. Come on now. Yeah.
The sad thing is like, I got to talk about the Brood. You're going to talk about the Brood. I got to say, I
hated the Brood, to be honest with you, because I hated Gangrel.
Right.
I didn't like those guys.
I liked Gangrel.
He was the one, like, guy who was like a goth wrestler. I couldn't stand that guy.
I liked his music too. I liked Gangrel's music.
So the Gangrel cool music, and then their entrance was pretty cool too because it was unique.
Go ahead, Jeremy. Sorry.
Y'all are a bunch of jerk offs. All right, I was gonna talk and y'all talked over me.
Go ahead.
So Joe.
But no, I'm torn with the Brood because I enjoyed Gangrel's gimmick. He wasn't the greatest mic guy or, best in ring, but I liked the gimmick itself because, like Joe, I like vampire stuff. I think vampire stuff is really cool. Yep. Was he the right guy for that gimmick to be the leader of the Brood? Not necessarily, but I really like the gimmick. I like how they came up. How he came to the ring, coming up through the floor. I thought that was cool. The whole presence about that. And then you threw in Edge and Christian into it, and they became the Brood, and I thought it was really cool. And then you let them talk because they hadn't learned any mic skills, and it was like, oh my!
Then it was
God,
over.
It's even worse.
Yeah, they were bad.
Then they got out of the Brood and were themselves, and it's like these guys are freaking money. Like
the switch got flipped up, and then it was off for the races.
The Brood might be one of the worst. They're up in that discussion for worst factions on the mic. They're right in the middle of that discussion.
Yeah, they are. But
what was the Brood or the new Brood?
There's a new Brood. What?
Yeah, so after Edge and Christian left Gangrel, he recruited the Hardys.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that was bad. That was bad.
It didn't last long, but it happened.
That's why I didn't remember it. That was that bad.
It was so memorable.
Very bad. Very bad.
But yeah, so there's been a lot more stinker factions than there have been good factions. The unfortunate thing, because when you're trying to put 4 people together, sometimes 3 people for a faction, it's just one of those things where you got to have the right people. If you don't have the right people, you're not going to get them over. And you always at least got to have that one real good mic piece to be able to get the other 2 guys over, because he's already probably over if he's that good on the mic. So
you also kind of have the I don't really call it a faction. It's like on paper it's a faction, but it's not really a faction because we've never really seen them. You have the 4 horsewomen who potentially can be. They're not. We've never really seen them be that, but they call themselves that. So like they are like, are they a faction on paper, or like we've never really seen them be a faction, but they call themselves that all the time. So
yeah, that's treading the line very closely because they.
I just wanted to bring it up because it is kind of like treading the line.
Mm-hmm. No, good point, because it's kind of like those 4 came up together in NXT, so that's what they called themselves. So it's kind of like, once again, WWE will probably do something like that 5 years from now when it's way past the time for them to do that.
Exactly.
Unfortunately. But that could be something with it all depends if Becky Lynch does come back to pro wrestling as well. But that is a faction that could have had some light a year ago, 2 years ago, especially when Ronda came in.
Right, for
she
sure.
Had her 4 horsewomen of MMA per se. Those 2 kind of going at it. There could have been some story there, but It's one of
They
those
dropped the
what
ball.
if stories.
They dropped the ball on that one.
The big thing is that we got to keep in mind about that is, as cool as it would have been and as to see that happen, the problem is that at the time when they were coming up through NXT and coming up to the main roster, who the hell were they going to fight if they were the 4 horsewomen? Like, honestly, like there wasn't enough talent to spread around say, okay, we got these other people that if we keep these 4 together, yeah, they can fight these people.
But they could have just done it with Ronda's girls. They wouldn't have had to be a faction.
Jeremy, they could have come up and whooped the shit out of the Bella twins. That would have been spectacular.
Fuck yeah, it would have been.
The Bellas. I mean, you still had like Paige was still there at the time on the main roster. Yeah, the Bellas, Paige. There was some other people that were still kind of there. It wouldn't have been that great though of a run if they would have done
I
it.
believe
thrown Alicia Fox in there. That would have been awesome.
I am of the belief, Joe, that the 4 horsewomen versus the 4 horsewomen didn't happen because the other 2 of Ronda's girls are very green and they've never really figured it out. So
yeah, they didn't. I don't think it's clicked. It's not clicking for them like they thought it would for them to be moving up and doing more.
I think that they avoided it because I think that they were afraid of the disaster if they tried to put especially the one that looks like she's strung out on crack or whatever. I think that they were afraid she was gonna be a disaster on the main roster.
Yeah.
I'm just telling the truth. I'm just telling like it is. So she was the one that was the worst of the 4 by far.
How AJ sees it, she could be a crack whore.
Her and Lita.
Whoa.
Evidently, he's going back to the ECW days when they taunted her about being a crack whore.
Yeah.
Not actually her actually being a crack whore, because Lita is. Yeah.
We also, I guess we could. We didn't talk about the Wyatt family either.
Yeah. I mean, it's the Wyatt family.
My biggest issue with the Wyatt family, and I always loved the Wyatt family, was they always lost.
Yeah, they didn't. They didn't.
It became hard to take them seriously after a while, so they had to basically,
they were
break them up and everything.
They were okay to me just because the first time Nicole saw them, she's like, "Wow, this is like the faction you and Joe and Jeremy had."
Oh yeah.
Well, they never knew what to do with Luke Harper. I feel like Luke Harper,
both of them,
was really
Rowan sucked, so it didn't matter what they did with him.
They should have been tag champions though. Like, I mean,
except for when they were
Bray Wyatt, they have Bray Wyatt who can talk. So, there's no reason why they couldn't have at least a decent run with the tag titles.
I think their worst incarnation of Harper and Rowan was when they were the Bashams or whatever.
The Bludgeon Brothers.
The Bludgeon Brothers. They came down with those giant hammers.
Awfulness.
At that point, technically, they weren't part of the Wyatt family anymore because there wasn't.
Right, but I mean, it was just like, come on, like
the Bumble Brothers. They were awful.
This gimmick is I really felt like we were going back to the 1992, 93.
Where's Duke the Dumpster Drosy when we need him?
Like, what the hell are we doing here? Like,
the
this is just ridiculous. So, So anything?
I figured the Wyatt family at least deserved to be brought up. They did have a really good a decent feud with the Shield. I will say that there was a pretty good feud there. So, and Bray is clearly the ray of hope out of that group to me. Strowman, enough said. But
I still don't think they know what to do with him as far as in ring and who do they have him fight, because it's not like the Undertaker. Like the Undertaker, I know you're not a big fan of him, AJ, but the Undertaker at least was a believable enough character to have him in the ring consistently, fighting people, fighting the undead. Somebody's fighting the undead guy. Bray Wyatt is just like, I don't get, like, I get his gimmick. I guess I kind of get it with he's absolutely insane now, even more than he was before with his character.
He's unstoppable. He can take 15 finishers and kick out.
But I don't. Who do they put him in a feud with? It doesn't. There's nobody that makes sense to put him in a feud with, like
other than Strowman.
Well, yeah, like up to this point, he's always been targeting people who, like, wronged him in the past, which basically meant just like going back after people who he, feuded with at one point or another.
Yeah.
Like the only one that I don't think he's ever really done a full thing with like that since he's been the Fiend is Daniel Bryan. At least not anything that like lasted very long, but Bryan's.
Well, I mean, he definitely fought Daniel Bryan and had a feud with him.
Right, but it's like it didn't really have like the same. It really felt like they kind of like left that hanging.
No, they did. It wasn't. It wasn't
didn't have the ending that it should have had.
Yeah, like when he did his thing with like Kane or with Jerry Lawler or with Cena, then it's like there was like definitely like a kind of like a finality point.
Yeah.
To those. I really do still legitimately wonder if Cena will ever come back, to be quite honest. So
yet to be seen.
To be determined.
If Cena does come back, it's got to build off of that, the Firefly match and everything, the Firefly Funhouse match at WrestleMania. So we'll see, but yeah, it's like there's always been like a sense of finality, and I think they're maybe trying, hopefully, building to that with Strowman. I guess you could argue he didn't quite really get that with Seth either, but I think they sensed that the audience was turning on Seth and that they had to turn him heel. I think obviously the other big thing too is that I think they were probably intending to do a full program with him and Roman, but that's off until Roman's comfortable coming back too. So, but you're definitely the way that they have Wyatt right now, it does get increasingly difficult for him to have somebody to work against. There's like right now the way the roster is constructed, there's like let's say like his feud with Strowman ends today. Just there really isn't anybody that's out there who I think he could really. What's he supposed to do? Start wrestling Big E? Start wrestling Nakamura? Start wrestling Styles? I mean, none of those really makes a lot of sense for various reasons. So,
well, it's just further, further proof that WWE doesn't know what to do with a lot of their talent. They have no fucking clue. Like they're just like,
it's
we'll just have you do like skits for the next 3 months, and then we'll figure something out for you. Okay? Sounds good, right? Yeah.
It's permeated. Yeah. It's permeated to NXT now, and I didn't want it to do that, and now it's permeated to NXT. Hence why Adam Cole's fighting Pat McAfee. So
what a fucking train wreck.
It's permeated to there where I didn't want NXT to be worried about the mainstream, and now they're we gotta get to the mainstream. Hey, Vince, it didn't matter whether Pat McAfee was on your show the other night or not. You guys got smoked in the ratings. So don't bring this tool on here and give him a fucking match. I don't know what the fuck he's done to get a match at a takeover. Like, whose dick is he sucking, right?
I just don't get it. I mean, he's a good punter. He has a good podcast with his guys. They got a deal with who was it? They got a sponsorship deal, and he went and he did a good thing. It was like he went and gave like each one of his guys $25,000 in cash that he has on the show for him. I can't remember the damn place that gave him a sponsorship. I forget. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Well, I mean, he does good shit outside, but this whole thing with the whole wrestling thing, I think he's just a wrestling fan junkie, and whatever like this thing that's going on between him and Adam Cole in the past year or 2 years and all that shit, they're feeding off of it now because they don't really have anything else to fucking do. Well, and they're gonna let a celebrity, once again, here we go. We're gonna have a celebrity in some fashion on a professional wrestling show in a goddamn fucking match.
Well, that's what Vince does when he gets scared. When he gets worried, he starts bringing in celebrities. Like that's the cure-all for his ratings, for his ratings woes. Like, just bring in celebrities.
And it didn't, because I think I don't know if their ratings dropped, but they got beat by over 200,000 viewers
No, it was like 901 to like 751, so it was like 160,000 viewers.
Okay, Mr. Exact over here. So close enough to 200,000.
Not really, but it was like 150.
AJ's gotta be two.
You don't round 160 up to 200, do you, Pat?
Say that again.
You don't round 160 up to 200.
He's about to get mute, Jeremy. I'm about to mute him.
If those are the parameters, I suppose you would have to. But
okay, thank you, Pat.
I mean, that's a very high round too. So.
Well, we like to use bigger rounds to make WWE look ridiculous.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, it wasn't.
If we can make WWE look ridiculous, and maybe one day they'll listen to this podcast and be like, "Yeah, those four guys don't know what the fuck they're talking about." But anyways,
if somebody WWE were to ever listen to this podcast, I would really be concerned that they have too much time on their hands.
It must be that board.
Maybe we can promote AJ to be a writer. We'll be like, take AJ as a writer. He'll help you out, you know.
I mean,
we know that
anybody
AJ's dream job.
Anybody can help them at this point.
But does AJ know how to write A+ Hollywood dialogue? Because that's the only kind of writer that they need.
I know, right? Because that's apparently what the promos need to be.
Yeah.
Well, that's all. Thank you to Stephanie McMahon. Thank you, Stephanie, for ruining writers and their ability to actually produce a good show. So thank you. So let's move on.
I
think we.
But
It's time for a stumper.
Uh-oh.
That's what I was gonna say. Let's go on to the stumper. I'm ready not to be able to answer it.
It's time for a stumper question of the evening.
All right. I'm scared.
Who are the members of the stable once known as Jersey Triad?
What? I swear he makes this shit up. Like
It's
Jersey
not-
Triad.
It's not made up.
Like
I don't even know if I've ever heard of them. So
Oh, yes.
Pat's licking his chops, like he might actually have heard of Jersey Triad. And he's like, "Oh yeah, it was from 1982. They really weren't from Jersey."
One of the members technically is from Jersey.
Okay. All
I
right.
believe. Yes, I think he is.
Either that or Pat's just like, "Are you chewing on a cough drop, Pat?"
Ice Cube.
Oh,
Joe,
nice. Okay.
what like wrestling like? I've never heard of him. So, like, what wrestling organization were they part of?
I will give you a clue.
Okay.
That the one guy's finisher has been used by multiple people. And there is a current wrestler who uses his finishing move in his own version.
I just want to butt in real quickly, unfortunately.
Uh-huh.
Unfortunately. Okay.
And say, I know the answer. I'm just waiting.
Well, I don't know it, Pat. So
Neither. I have no fucking clue. Would you just go with? Tell us the answer there, buddy.
You guys a choice. I mean, you guys can come up with guesses. I didn't want to step on your toes.
Okay, Ringo Starr, Paul McCartney.
No. That was the Liverpool Triad.
Hey, I work hard for these stumper questions, okay?
I see that.
The Jersey Triad was a group that suddenly came to be in 1999.
Did you Google this, you fucker? Did you just Google this? I see you looking at your fucking computer monitor.
What?
Or looking at something.
My
Okay.
hand's been here the whole time. I haven't typed in it.
All right, you're fine. Continue
his
on.
hands have been in his pockets.
Actually, I had one hand in my pocket and the other was giving a peace sign.
What about a thumbs up?
1999 WCW, for whatever reason, after building him up as the new hot babyface for over 2 years, they turned
Yep.
DDP heel, and he hooked up with the late great Bam Bam Bigelow and the late great Chris Kanyon. And they became the Jersey Triad, and they started wrestling as a tag team like the Freebirds under the Freebird rule. I think they won the tag belts a few times. but it just never made sense to me as to why they turned Paige heel when they did. And they were around for a couple of months, but I think what ultimately ended it was might have been when they did the big reset then in 2000 when like Rusev and Bischoff came back. But yeah, it was so it was DDP, Bigelow and Canyon. Now, Bam Bam we know was from Jersey. Paige was originally from Jersey too. I never really knew if Canyon was truly Jersey or not, but as somebody who was born in Jersey and lived there, for the first few years of his life and still has plenty of family who lives in Jersey, bragging that you're from Jersey is
not something you want to do.
Is to steal a line from an SNL sketch with Ray Romano. It's like the fat girl waving her trophy from the smelling contest. It's just you don't brag that you come from Jersey, because guess what? Nobody gives a fuck. It's like bragging that you're from Jersey is like, and like ever since that show was on the air, it's like as if trying to convince people that you're like in The Sopranos or something. It's fucking.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So
that was the
evidently
that was good, Joe. I had no idea, but the person that people that made the question, the person that got it are WCW people. I'm not, and I definitely probably wasn't watching it then. So
I was still watching a little tiny bit in '99, so that's why I did it. And like I said, I also remembered it because I was quite frankly pretty pissed off that they turned DDP heel. I thought it made no sense.
Yeah. It didn't. It was pretty stupid.
They built him up with so much audience goodwill. They finally put the world title on him, and then it's like, oh, let's turn him heel. What?
Yep. It was a craziness back then.
Yeah, I definitely was. I can say I never watched WCW when it was going on. I only ever watched WWE, WWF, at the time. So there was no way I was going to get that one. I mean, normally I don't get them anyways, but that's besides the point.
I think that was a pretty good stumper question, Joe.
Oh, yeah.
I think it very well fit in with the theme of the podcast tonight. So,
yep. So I try to do. Yep.
Well done. Well, you get a star. A star for you, Joseph.
Yes, guys. Thank you.
Maybe next time, Joe, we should ask Jeremy who was in Harlem Heat 2000.
Wouldn't know that either. So,
Jeremy, who was in regular Harlem Heat?
Well, come on. That was Stevie Ray, and also
just making
brother,
sure. What was his
Booker
brother's
T.
name? Okay,
Booker
there we
T.
go. Just making sure.
Not Booker. Booker T.
Booker
T.
Just for reference, Jeremy, Harlem Heat 2000 was Stevie Ray and Big T, and Big T was the former Ahmed Johnson, who had gained about 2 small children.
Gained about 2 small children.
Well, he was like that much fatter.
And then he did the Grand River plunge instead of the Pearl River plunge.
The Grand River plunge.
Oh shit.
Oh boy, we're all going to hell. So
my ticket's been punched.
My ticket was punched before I turned 21.
Yes, me too.
So some might argue we're already there. Thanks, COVID.
Yeah.
It's a possibility as well.
So let's us move on, and thank you, Joe, for that great stumper. If anybody in our listening audience was able to get that, fantastic for you. I suck. So we are going to move on to our end of our show, which now includes, well, is always included. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. It's getting too late, and I'm too damn tired. We're moving on to Mount Rushmore.
There we go.
It's time for Mount Rushmore, and this week's Mount Rushmore is completely based on factions. We are going to list our favorite faction of all time to go on Mount Rushmore, and I'll start this one off.
All right.
Since I'm going to probably take one of the most obvious factions of all time, since I am a WWE guy, I am going to go with...
3MB?
Yes! No! Absolutely not. That was terrible. If I was to put 3MB on there, I should be kicked off the podcast.
Let's be honest, did any of us ever expect two members of 3MB to become world champions?
No. I'm going to go with D-Generation X.
Two words.
Yeah, 2 words. It was crazy how they started off, because you wouldn't have thought they were a faction to start off with, because it was, yes, they had 3 people, but one of those people didn't do anything. It was China. Like, she was just kind of there as, like, the bodyguard. I guess she was,
pretty much, yeah.
She was the bodyguard. And I mean, her role started off as when Triple H was Hunter Hearst Helmsley. She was his limo driver or some shit like that. So she went from a limo driver to being a bodyguard, which rightfully fit her character because of how ridiculously muscular she was, for even a guy, you know. So she fit right into that role of a bodyguard. But it was him and Shawn Michaels, Triple H and Shawn Michaels, and they were considered a faction. And it wasn't until they finally got the tag team, which was the New Age Outlaws, which was the Road Dogg and Billy Gunn. And then eventually, when X-Pac came over from WCW, they brought X-Pac into it, and then and that's when I believe Shawn Michaels was actually gone.
Yes.
So they needed a 4th guy to make it in our opinion, of course, a legitimate faction, because you had the mid-carder, you had the main eventer, and you had the tag team. And they had one of the most memorable promos of all time in WWE history, which we know they can never do ever again, because everybody but China was in blackface. Actually, I think Triple H just had bronzer on. I think he just had his tanner on. So I think he was okay. But I mean, you had X-Pac, who was dressed up like Mark Henry, called Mizark Henry, and I mean, he was I think they just painted him in black paint. Like, it was ridiculous. And you had the Road Dogg being B-Lo. He was slightly dark. And then you had Billy Gunn, who was dressed up as the Godfather, he was slightly darker than what he was supposed to be too. But that promo, just for pure entertainment, regardless of how they were dressed, was absolutely awesome. It was a great promo. Triple H is the Croc, and he's, do you smell what the Croc is cooking? He's like, I smell what the Croc is cooking. It's just like the promo was just really good, like, all around. And the Road Dogg being B-Lo and getting up on the ropes and shaking his head every 5 seconds and repeating everything that the Croc said, it was really good. And the fact that they didn't try and have China do anything was good. They had some random dude be
Jason Sensation was Owen Hart.
Oh, it was Jason Sensation. Okay, I didn't know who it was. I thought it was just some random guy that they were like, oh, this guy can talk on the mic. But yeah, he was Owen Hart, and it was funny because I was rewatching that promo with my wife, and she's like, who the hell is he supposed to be? I was like, he's supposed to be Owen Hart. She's like, did he really have caution tape on his? I was like, oh yeah, yeah. Owen's Hart outfit at that time had caution. It said caution, like, and an X on the front, yeah. But it was just ridiculous. But I mean, if you look at factions, how D-Generation X has been able to stick around, come back periodically, with different people coming back at different times. Usually it's Shawn Michaels and Triple H, because those were the most popular guys in that. And like Matt, and I'm sorry, like AJ said, they have sold the most merchandise over time out of any faction or their highest selling merchants people, because of they have staying power, because people enjoyed them because of what they did, even when they came back. And it was just Triple H and Shawn Michaels, and they were making fun of Shane and Vince, and Shawn Michaels is running around the ring like a chicken with his head cut off, and Triple H yells at him, "Shut up!" And then he falls down on the ground, and they dumped the fake poo on top of the Spirit Squad and Vince, and just they did a lot of fun stuff, and they really did change the game for WWE to be able to compete in the ratings.
Vince loves the cock. They did that too.
Vince loves the cock, But I mean, they changed the game for WWE. I mean, they invade WCW where they are, do the invasion thing, and they couldn't get in. I mean, they rolled up in a tank. I mean, come on, that was cool,
Yeah,
I don't care.
At the time, that was very, very cool when they did that.
So I mean, they just did a lot of different things. I mean, one of my favorite things is the interview that they do. And Shawn Michaels was like, I was up all night. And it's just goofy things like that. And the Sergeant Slaughter thing.
The Sergeant Slaughter thing, for sure.
They got the windshield wipers on the shields because they're having him spit on them and stuff like that. Just, and then comedy. And they were heels. That's the funny thing. Like, they were heels and they were comic and they were fun to watch. Just, it made wrestling fun again, especially because The Rock was coming into his own too at that time. So you had a lot of fun things to watch and bad guys to hate at the same time.
And they won belts. They won belts, and they were well represented too. So
I throw DX up there on tonight's Mount Rushmore. Darth Pat, who do you throw up on Mount Rushmore?
Well, real quick, I also just wanted to add. I mean, it's kind of lesser known than the Nation one, but they also later that same year they did the promo mocking the corporation, where Triple H reprised his role as The Rock. X-Pac did Ken Shamrock.
I remember that one now.
Road Dogg did Vince. Billy Gunn did Shane, and Chyna did Big Boss Man, in the sense that she started twirling a nightstick around and stuff. And I think they brought Jason Sensation back to do Shawn Michaels because Michaels had become the commissioner and aligned himself with the corporation.
That one was funny also.
That one didn't have the blackface, but it did have the use of, little people who were supposed to be Patterson and Briscoe. And they were like attached to like Road Dogg's ass as if they were really kissing his ass and everything. So it wasn't quite as good as the Nation one, and was also, again, something that you couldn't do today because you can't use, little people like that. But it still had its moments, because I think that's also where X-Pac coined the phrase "it's five knuckle shuffle time" about Shamrock, and I think Triple H's The Rock said something about like the Croc thinks Kenny should switch to decaf or something. I was like,
they definitely pushed the limits, and they pushed the limits a lot.
They 100% pushed the limits, probably more than anybody. Especially when they first started, they were definitely pushing the limits with their promos and their penis jokes and stuff. It was like,
they were crossing that line multiple times.
Every week they were crossing the line. They were doing it as much as they could get away with.
Yep. All right, Darth Pat, who do you put up on Mount Rushmore?
For me, probably not much of a surprise. It's the NWO.
Okay.
And the reasons, we've really talked about a lot of the reasons already, but to me, the main reason is because it gave Hulk Hogan like a second run to his career, really, because he was getting booed. There's just that. I mean, maybe that was because he was in WCW instead of WWF, but he was definitely getting booed, and the act had just worn thin after a decade, basically, of the red and yellow, train, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, believe in yourself, shtick. And like they've always said, originally it was going to be Sting or somebody else, and it just wouldn't have worked any other way. But and as much as some people want to criticize the NWO in retrospect, and obviously it's easy to do that because it did become overblown, it did become way too many guys, and it just got way out of hand. That's not the fault of the faction itself. That's the fault of the people booking it. But if the NWO hadn't happened, if it hadn't been a thing, would there have really been a long-lasting Monday Night War? How long yes, Nitro and Raw were like trading, ratings, victories back and forth for a while and everything. But that really had more to do with the fact that Raw was getting increasingly bad, more so than that WCW was getting increasingly good in a lot of ways. WCW was doing some new things with Nitro, especially with the cruiserweights, but they needed really that thing that was going to really draw the eyeballs, and obviously the NWO was the thing that did that. So it really did create the sense that something was going to happen, and then there was like the unpredictability factor too. With it was like, oh my God, who's going to join the NWO now? It's like, oh my God, the Giants joining the NWO. Oh my God, Ted DiBiase's there now. Oh, the 1, 2, 3 kids there now.
Oh my God, their whole roster joined the NWO.
It got out of hand, but again, at first it really was like, okay, who's going to join them next? Even some of like the lesser guys, it was still like, it gave Buff Bagwell really like a second. Not to say that his first run was bad, because he was tag team champion a bunch of times, but it gave him a new dimension to work with, and it really did make him a bigger name. Scott Steiner became Big Papa Pump because he joined the NWO. So it did lead to some people who had been there being able to do, new things and everything. Again, obviously, it went on way too long. One of the biggest problems, of course, was when they tried to do the split, which was really fairly logical considering what had been going on, was that the guys, some of the guys who were involved in it kept getting hurt, so there was never any payoff to that. There never was like a big like NWO Black and White versus NWO Wolfpack. It's like war to settle the score, if you will. So, but again, while every group I think really does owe their existence to the Horsemen, I just feel like the NWO was on a different level because they did have a much bigger impact on a national level, and in a way that really hadn't been seen before. The Horsemen, just as good as they were, never had that much of an impact because there was never a time where the Horsemen was when either in one of their best groups or in their prime where they were like chief in the landscape, I guess you could say, because they weren't WWF and they weren't when WCW was national, really.
Right. And if the NWO doesn't happen and we don't get Big Papa Pump, then we never got the greatest math promo of all time from him.
So
goes down in history.
No, can't be me, so he's not even going to try.
You're right, Pat. You were right when you said it's not the faction's fault that the writers are stupid. So
they had a cash cow, which they figured they had to keep feeding, and they didn't realize that people got tired of it, and there was a natural end to it, which was when Sting beat Hogan at Starrcade, but they booked that up from Sunday.
And that's where that's like a microcosm of WCW to WWF. They ruined the NWO because they didn't know when to end it, whereas WWE was smart with DX and they handled it better, and that's why the longevity was there, because they got rid of it at the right time and then brought it back occasionally to sell some T-shirts and merchandise, and then they would go away. They never. So that was a microcosm of those two companies. I think the NWO was a better idea overall. I just think you had the two companies and one knew what to do with one and one didn't.
Right.
So,
and there was an interview I heard one time, I forget who it was with, but they literally said that wrestlers, because of how hot the NWO was, were literally going to management and saying, I need to be in the NWO. I need to be in it. Like, just every wrestler. I don't want to say every wrestler, but any wrestler that wasn't doing something at the time was trying to get in the NWO. And it was, and they were just like, okay. And they wouldn't not say no to almost anybody about being in the NWO. So it just got, as we all know, way, way overdone and way too big. I mean, what was there, like 20 people in NWO at some point in time? It was like crazy.
They had the NWO Japan at one point, with the Great Muta and some of the other guys. So it was, it expanded.
Chono.
Yeah, it expanded out to that. I think the thing with them, the cool part about the three things with them is, one, this would have never worked if Hogan would have said no and Bischoff would have had to put Sting in that position, because it wouldn't have really worked very well with Sting, unfortunately.
No.
The second thing, I mean, you have Ultimate Babyface turning heel, and we all saw the outcome. But the other part I thought was kind of the more, I would say groundbreaking, but something we really didn't see before is like you have someone leaving this company that's up here and then showing up in street clothes, just chilling in the audience, and then taking a mic and cutting a promo in the ring. And then Kevin Nash shows up. And then everyone's like, what the hell is going on? And they kind of played that whole beginning part very well.
That storyline is top, top notch stuff.
Like, we're coming to invade. You want a war, you're going to get a war. And as people didn't really know, like, oh my God, we're going to see more WWE wrestlers show up on WCW? Or like, what's the deal? And they played that whole beginning part very well.
They did.
The Bash of the
Great writing. That was great storytelling, great storyline. All of that was great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's also good. That's also a good point too, about like, the guy who was like a top guy with WWE, just all of a sudden showing up on WCW, because that really had never happened before.
No.
No.
Like anytime somebody left WWE and ended up going to WCW, it was like Arn Anderson going back, or Ric Flair going back, or like Rick Rude when he left, but he didn't like immediately go from WWF to WCW. There was like a good chunk of time.
Luger showing up. Luger definitely showing up was one.
Right, that was, but again, he was a guy who went back. Now, technically, of course,
flip flopping.
Technically, Hall and Nash were guys who were going back to WCW too.
Right.
But nobody remembered them from WCW.
I did, but.
Well,
very few people did.
Very few people, but I remembered them.
The Diamond Stud and Vinny Vegas were not. So,
no, they weren't memorable. I just liked Razor, so I remember Diamond Stud specifically because I liked him.
All right. So, AJ, who do you throw on Mount Rushmore?
I'm going to go more modern.
Uh-huh. Maybe something that has to do with your shirt?
Yes. I'm going to go with Shock the System and the Undisputed Era. They've been my favorite faction since the moment they invaded NXT, per se. So I still remember the night that Adam Cole super kicked Drew McIntyre, and they've basically run that company for the last 3 years. They've been there's other guys there that are relevant, but they've been the thing that's kept that company going for the last 3 years. So they've been in all the War Games matches. There's a lot of matches they've been in that are like NXT top 10, top 15 matches. So they're putting on the good matches to top everything else off. So I think Cole and O'Reilly are the best mic guys they have, but all of them can talk if they have to.
Mm-hmm.
And they did complete the Undisputed Prophecy and have all 4 belts.
Yeah, yes, they did.
For 4 months, and it was really, really cool. That was the first episode of NXT that was on USA, was when Roderick Strong won the North American Championship. So I like Adam Cole a lot. So, and their music is cool. Everything about them is cool. There's not a lot of things you can say. Like, they're that tweener group in NXT where you're allowed to root for the heels, so everybody likes Undisputed because you're allowed to root for the bad guys in NXT. So they've been playing the tweener card the whole time they've been there. And Adam Cole gets the biggest pop in WWE right now. So, it doesn't get old seeing that for me still in person and stuff. It's still cool to see the Adam Cole baby in person on TV, whatever. They eat that. Everybody's eating that shit up on NXT. So.
I think he eats that shit up. I think he smiles every time he does that. I think he eats it up too.
He does. I mean, it's him. So they're all good wrestlers, all 4 of them. Like, Roderick is kind of the redheaded stepchild of the group, but he's a really good wrestler too. He's very underappreciated guy, I think. He's that guy who's always the next guy in line, who's never going to win the world title. It's always right, Joe. It's always been like that wherever he's been. I feel like with Roderick, he's never quite there.
Yeah, like he's at that tipping point where he's good enough to get over the hump, but like individually on his own, it's just hasn't confrontation for him. But in the tag team environment, it's gold with him.
He's that guy that goes out and puts on the really good matches, and he's like the reliable guy that they can count on to go out. And I still remember at TakeOver New Orleans the night he turned on Pete Dunne when they were fighting. Mm-hmm. Adam Cole had to sub in that night because Fish was hurt. So and Adam Cole had already wrestled in the ladder match, so they did put Adam Cole through a table early in the match so he can just sit outside the whole time and not actually really have to wrestle. And then that was the night when Roderick turned, and when he turned on Pete Dunne, and then he steps over Pete Dunne and walks right on him, steps on his stomach and just walks right over him and goes and grabs the Undisputed Era thing off of Adam Cole. That was classic stuff. That was classic stuff. That's another reason why that TakeOver is my favorite TakeOver, because nobody saw that coming. Nobody. Yeah. And this is the era where everything leaks and this and that. Nobody saw that coming. The crowd was popping. Everybody was doing the yes, because nobody saw it coming. And it's not just me. There are a lot of wrestling fans that like surprises. They like to see stuff that they're not expecting. And that was one of those nights where they pulled it off. They got away with it. Like when Cena came back at the Royal Rumble, or when Brock came back on Raw. Those moments don't happen very often. So when they do, I try to cherish them and enjoy them. When those when Owens won the Undisputed belt that night, or the Universal title. When you don't expect it, it's fun. Sometimes things that I don't necessarily want to happen, but if it's unexpected, I'm still like, all right, at least they did something I wasn't expecting. It gets boring sometimes when they do what everybody expects. Yeah. So I am picking the Undisputed Era for my Mount Rushmore.
All right. That leaves Theo for last. Who do you got?
I'm going outside the United States of America.
What? Okay.
I am. My faction has been around since 2013 and it's still going strong. I am picking a faction from New Japan called the Bullet Club. And everyone knows who the Bullet Club is because the guys in AEW, a big part of them were a part of the Bullet Club at one time or another. Mm-hmm. Hence, this faction's good. They're kind of, I don't want to say they're a knockoff of the NWO. They do certain things that are very similar to them, but they do it in their own way. For the most part. Yeah, well, they can't do that anymore. I mean, I don't know. In New Japan, I mean, I know I still see them sometimes do the Too Sweet over there in New Japan. So I don't think Vince is really able to watch them. Overall, you guys know, I watch a lot of different wrestling shows. Mm-hmm. I still watch ROH. I still watch Impact. I watch it. I find as much stuff on New Japan as I can. I subscribe to their website for a couple years too, when they had that going, to watch their shows over in New Japan. They remind me of the NWO, but they're more athletic. To me, they're more badass, and they've kind of done the faction the proper way, in regards to how a faction should be run. They're on their sixth leader now. So one of the things that's kind of weird is when, I think it's kind of cool at the same time. So for instance, when AJ Styles, part of the Bullet Club, when he left to go to WWE, they had a tag match. He lost, and then they all kind of turned on him, jumped him, and then you find out who the new leader of the Bullet Club is. And they kind of do that every time for the most part. Right now, Evil, his name is Evil. He is the current leader of Bullet Club because the other guy, Jay White, is not able to travel to New Japan because of the COVID situation. They've been around since 2013. The original members are Bad Luck Fale. I always screw up their names sometimes. Tama Tonga, which he is extremely talented wrestler, I might add in regards to that. Carl Anderson is an original member, and Mr. Finn Balor, a.k.a. back then Prince Devitt, is also an original member. Those four are the original members of the Bullet Club. If you guys find matches from old Bullet Club stuff, current stuff, the matches are legitimately 4+ star rating matches. There's a lot of guys in New Japan that a lot of people don't know about that are just very, very good. they're speaking in Japanese, whatever the case may be. So I don't know how their promos are. But as far as the stories they tell in the ring, the skills those guys have in the ring, the ability they have, it's top-notch shit. It legitimately is. So here is the I'll give you some former members.
One of my guys from the Undisputed Era was a member.
Yes, he was a member for a year. Adam Cole was a member of the Bullet Club for a year. Here's some other people that I started watching while they were in New Japan and kind of started searching for them. One guy I do like is Hangman Page. He was part of the Bullet Club for over 2 years, and some of these guys had like long stints. So I mean, Adam Cole was for a year. AJ was for almost 2 Years. Cody was in it. Cody was in it for 2 years. Gallows was in it for 3 years. Kazarian, Hangman Page, Jeff Jarrett was in there for a year. Carl Anderson, of course. He was the third leader, original member. Kenny Omega was in it for about 4 years. Wow. Marty Scurll is another one that I'm very big on. Marty Scurll. He's a very talented wrestler. He was part of that for about a year. And then the Matt and Nick Jackson, they were a part of it. They were a part of that faction for almost 5 years, actually.
Nakamura?
Finn Balor, Nakamura. Yes, Nakamura was a part of them. They had a bunch of part-timers, too, which just makes me laugh. As I look at that list, like Brandy Rhodes, Amber Gallows, Scott D'Amore, Stephen O'Meal from TV. It's kind of funny. I mean, in the other...
They sold merchandise like Hot Topic. I bought a bunch of I have so much Bullet Club stuff because of Omega and the Bucks. Like I was following the Bullet Club because Omega and the Bucks were there. So Hot Topic bought rights to that product and sold that product for a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, Hideo Itami that was in WWE, he left. He went back to New Japan. He's now a member of, the Bullet Club. There's some guys like Evil, and people don't know about him. He's interesting. He's kind of a bulky guy. He's kind of like a slim version of Kevin Owens, if you want to put in those manner. The guy's a bigger dude, but he can wrestle. They are very well known. They have a current tag team. I brought this up on tag teams before. Gorillas of Destiny, or they call themselves God. What I think is awesome. Tonga and Loa, they are both very, very talented tag team. And they've it's kind of weird too. Like they're kind of one of those factions that have like made like smaller factions, like the Elite. They had the Elite. They had the OG alignment. In regards to that, but no, that's my pick. The Bullet Club. The true hardcore wrestling fans will know. The other people will kind of semi-hear about them, but that's my pick for faction. They've done a lot, and they've won a lot of titles. I mean, they've held a crap load of titles. They've won. Mm-hmm. They've won a bunch of awards too, as far as like the Wrestling Observer and all those other awards that we see. So they have a good.
The top
a lot.
15 or the top 15 or 20 wrestlers in the world, half of them were in the Bullet Club at one point or another. Currently. So.
Oh yeah.
All right. So just to recap, our Mount Rushmore this week is wrestling factions, and our wrestling factions that are up there are DX, the NWO, Undisputed Era, and the Bullet Club. Very interesting.
It's a really good Mount Rushmore. It's actually one of our better. Like I think all the answers are really solid on this one. So
very true. So that brings us to the end of our show, and we do want to once again, as always, thank everybody that's watching this on YouTube or listening, however you are catching us. Thank you for tuning in. We do greatly appreciate it. If we weren't recording this and we weren't putting it out for you guys, we would just be talking to ourselves, and not that would be a bad thing, but it's more fun when we know that we can entertain other people at the same time. So
I think Darth Pat talks to himself sometimes, but
that's a possibility. I know I talked to.
It's okay, Pat. I do sometimes too.
Wait a minute. You think I talk to myself sometimes?
I was just trying to wake him back up. I think he thought he was at WrestleMania again.
I think Darth Pat has had a long day like the rest of us, but it's all good.
He's gonna do the Macarena tomorrow night, so.
Here, that song played. There might be one dead DJ.
Mine's the chicken dance. Don't play that song on freaking wedding.
I would pay money to see Darth Pat do the electric slide. I'll tell you that right now.
I can almost guarantee the chicken dance will be played because I don't think my cousin will deviate from certain, wedding traditions. That seems like one where I'm pretty sure she'll stick with it, but maybe she'll surprise me.
Have fun with that, Pat.
Yeah. So once again, we're at the end of our show. Thank you everybody for listening, tuning in, making this podcast what it is other than just us talking to ourselves. So we do appreciate it. And tune in next week when we talk about music. So we're changing it up a little bit. We're doing something a little different. We're not talking about Star Wars. We're not talking about wrestling. We're not talking about sports. We're talking music. And I don't know what exactly we're going to talk about music. Could be
that one could be interesting.
Could be shirt top and stuff. We have no idea. So you better tune in because it's going to be interesting. That's for sure. So thank you guys. Have a good night. Peace out. And we'll see you next week.